Good evening, everybody. I'm kind of up close and in your face. I don't have the stand I usually put my tablet on for these videos, so I'm kind of like really super up close. Um, so pardon me if I'm kind of like extreme close up here. Recently, and this isn't a call out video. I know the title kind of makes it sound like I'm like calling him out, but I'm not because he raised some good points. The 14th Prime on YouTube. I'm gonna name check him here. Um, he was asking because he groups the toy lines that he collects for Transformers, based on the Titans Return trilogy set, which is Titans Return, Power the Primes, Combiner Wars, fair, and Siege, Earthrise, Kingdom, and then Legacy and things. And he was talking about which ones. Like he asked which ones his audience felt might be the best, and like based on a lot of different factors like just enjoyability and articulation things. And so I kind of sat and I thought about it, and I wanted to weigh in on that discussion because I have a little bit of history on this. um when I was a kid I was huge into Transformers, but we didn't have a lot of money, so I couldn't buy a lot of them. I mean, I didn't buy them, obviously my parents bought them. I got them for birthdays and gifts and whatnot. And so I only got smaller ones. Generally, I would get like combiner pieces, like a leg part, which would be like an example of the Combaticons. I had Vortex, the helicopter, one of the arms, and I had Blast Off, another one of the arms. I eventually did get a an Onslaught for the centerpiece, but I never got the feet. But I had those, and I had other little plug-in ones. I had a few other assorted ones. I had a double dealer. I had a movie Galvatron, which was that old blocky thing with lights and sound, and I had an Optimus Prime and an Ultra Magnus and a couple other miscellaneous ones. I don't remember all of them, but I didn't have very many. And as a kid, I always wished that they would do more. You couldn't do much with them necessarily. They didn't move right. Like Double Dealer, for example, his arms only moved at like the elbows, other than the transformation fold in, and his legs you couldn't make him walk at all. He just could stand there. The Optimus Prime was one of the most articulated ones that you could possibly get, and even that was like tight and ratchety and weird, and so a lot of people collect the G1 and the retro ones. There's a big push for retro re-releases and things, and I get that. And they'll say, "Oh yeah, this is the best because this is when they first came out. There's nothing better than the original toys." But when I was a kid, I always wanted them to be better than they were, right? And over a number of years, I was out of the game as I was growing up. Moved out of my folks' house, that kind of thing. And when I was living on my own, I did buy a few, not very many, but I bought a few for nostalgia. I got from an old site called Bot Collector, if they're still around. I got a Dreadwing set, which was Dreadwing and Smokescreen, the Generation 2 Stealth Bomber, and the fighter jet. And I still have them. They're over there on the table. And for Generation 2 had started to improve on the articulation. The articulation was much better in some of them, not all of them. I have a Generation 2 Prime that I had replaced my original with when I was a kid. And I carried with him I've carried it with him through many moves. And he's still, it's cool to have, but he is not the best Optimus Prime I have. Um, to me, right now, the Generations line, which is what includes the Siege trilogy, a lot of the Studio Series ones, the '86 ones, and the Legacy ones, they're all kind of the same thing because they reuse a lot of the same molds. I think they're the most superior. I think they're the best that Transformers have ever been, articulation wise, playability wise, accuracy wise. Now, to go back a little bit, The Combiner Wars Titans Return era was not that bad. When I first got back into serious collecting, which was only a few years ago, I started with a lot of that because that's what was really on the market. I bought a lot of stuff from eBay and things like that because I was playing catch up. And a lot of those are pretty good. Like, for example, the Combiner Wars Swindle is so much better than the G1. I understand why people would want to collect the original ones, but when you can get something like this, why wouldn't you get this instead now? Unless you're just purely a collector and you don't actually want to play with them much. Because this has all the playability, like you can all the posability, all this stuff, the facial expression, all these things. I got to make sure I actually get it in the camera. Plus the transformation and everything, they're far superior. And if they made an updated version of him with the Combaticons with Bruticus as part of the Generations line, which is with the Siege Studio A6 style articulation, I'd be right on that. Like the Menasor redo that they did. Excellent. I know people had problems with it, and of course you're always going to have stuff that you don't like about them, but compared to when I was a kid, being a Transformers fan is now the best it has ever been. If you're into collecting toys and you actually want to move them around and do stuff with them. If you want to get them and just let them sit on a shelf, well, then get into something else. I mean, get into either the Retro Classic or get into the Masterpiece line. You're going to be spending a lot of money, but they look the absolute best. But you're not going to play with those a lot because they're more fragile. There's more pieces. They're more expensive. These, my daughter's going to be 9. She has her own Transformers. She mostly likes Beast Wars, but that's beside the point. Pardon me, itchy nose. But now we can play with our robots together. Like we can move them around and get them into kicks and punches and dances because she likes them to dance. And I think it's the modern. While I have a lot from Combiner Wars, Power of the Primes, and Titans Return, I like a lot of them. The quality control wasn't always great. The joints were sometimes loose. They flopped around a little bit. You know, that it had its problems. But the engineering showed a lot of promise. And that led to the Generations lines that we have now, which is the Siege, Earthrise Kingdom, Legacy, all that stuff now, which I think it's the best time in the world to be a Transformers collector. If you're going to move them around to transform them semi-regularly and do things with them. I think that's personally the best. Because they're everything that I wanted from a toy as a kid. I wanted them to move like that. I wanted them to be able to throw a punch. I wanted them to be able to do the splits just because they could. Point a blaster, hold things with 2 hands. You know, I wanted them to be articulate, and they never were. But now they are. So it's like my dream come true. And I just don't get why anybody would want to go backwards from there. And so I think this is the best time to be a fan. And yeah, a lot of people complain because a lot of the molds are reused, but they're good molds for the most part. I mean, the Megatron mold that they've been using from Siege onward, it's shown its age. It certainly is. And it could have been better. That the back piece that holds part of the treads for the tank mode is just so heavy. It always makes them want to fall over backwards until you got to give them a hunched appearance. But like the modern Dinobots, far and away fantastic. The new Ultra Magnus I just got, pretty good. Not the absolute best he's ever been, but pretty good. The new Galvatrons from the War for Cybertron set, the Siege, Earthrise, etc. Excellent. A lot of people complain about the Coronation Starscream, but I think it's great. All the different Seekers, I know there's like 1,000 different Seekers using the exact same Siege mold. Man, I love them. I've got every single one of them so far. All the different colors, the Rainmakers and everything. Because they're just, it's great to see them up there in the full squadron, all just assembled up there. The camera bots being able to form the reflector camera, you know, it's a great time to be a Transformers fan. Even if some of them have their problems, even if there's some quality control here and there, the current lineup, I think, is the best it's ever been. I don't know how much better it can get, honestly. Like, most of the transformations are intuitive, most of them are fun to do, a few of them are not so fun. The Springers that they've had the last couple, both the Wreckers one and the one from War for Cybertron set, was frustrating in parts. But like the Titans now and everything, like when they started putting out the Titans back in uh, Titans Return and Combiner Wars and stuff, I didn't think I was ever going to get into figures that big. But now I've got Triptychon, I've got a Scorponok, I've got the Nemesis and the Ark, and even the Ark, for all of its issues, is still pretty impressive. You know, it's great to have. So which lineup is best? The current one, the Generations one, the most recent one, is the absolute best, I think. Do I still like the other ones that I got from Titans Return and even some of the earlier ones from the previous generations, like Thrilling 30 and stuff like that? Yeah, I still like a lot of that. But the improvements that they've made, like, there's no question. There's no question that this is the greatest time to be collecting for a Transformers fan. If you got kids and your kids don't break everything that they touch and you can trust them to play with your robots, it's a great time for them because they're getting the best possible Transformer toys that they can to play with. And seeing them play with it and enjoy it and pose them and all that other kind of stuff, it's great. It's absolutely great. And that's my opinion. Like I said, I didn't want to call out 14th Prime or anything for what he saw was the best. He had asked the question, and I was like, you know what? I'll give it some thought. I'll make a little video about it. I'll think about it. And he's right about some of them. Like the Cyclonus molds are absolutely fantastic. I remember the old Cyclonus, the original one, and the old Galvatron. Like I said, the big lights and sound, like a big brick, basically. And some of these molds are absolutely fantastic. The Cyclonus molds are some of my favorite. I've got both the two colors. Rumor is they're going to be doing one of the Star Secret Pirates. His name's Ferric, and he's like a white Cyclonus, basically. I'm going to be right on that because I like that mold. It's perfect. Like, I've got one of them right behind me right now. Like, I didn't even think I was going to get this one. I was like, it's just a recolor. I have the nice purple one that's supposed to be the Kingdom one that's accurate to 86. But I was like, oh, this one was on sale. You know, it was super cheap. And I was like, go ahead and get it. Go ahead and get it. And yeah, that's what I think. If you have different ideas on what the best toy line is, as far as in Transformers history, by all means, let me know. And I'd love to discuss it with people. So until then, this is your good boy Spider, wishing you